Thank you guys for coming out. It's an honor to be here. How about those protesters, huh? That was a really, really good looking bunch. It really was. It's funny coming in here, it reminded me of what I'm fighting for and why we're all here. How many of you guys are grateful that President Trump in his busy schedule decided to come out to Arizona? I also want to acknowledge this great organization, Turning Point USA. Not only for the help that they've given me personally, but for their national and even international mission. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, it would have been really easy for Turning Point USA to fold up shop after the brutal and horrific murder of their leader. Charlie Kirk was a friend to many of us, and he was a mentor to me. And like many of you guys, I thought one day Charlie would be president. But I am grateful to see that so many of the leaders stepped up and are keeping this going. And it's pretty clear being in this room today that Turning Point USA is alive and well. You guys think you could help me with something real quick? So, I just got back from DC. We had votes at, I think, 2 in the morning. Got about an hour of sleep, flew back here. On Monday, I'm flying back to DC, but it's actually a pretty special day because my wife of 20 years, her name is Jen, it's her birthday. And I'm not gonna be around. So would you guys help me sing happy birthday to my wife, Jen? All right, now give me a break. I don't have the best voice in the world, but you guys ready? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Jen. Happy birthday to you. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for doing that. Ladies, I got to ask you a question. Am I out of the doghouse? How much more do I have to? You know where I'm going with that. What do you guys think? What should I get her? What? Okay. All right. I got some ideas. Jen, I got a lot of ideas now. We're good. A little about me, guys. I was born and raised in Arizona. I actually was born in Tucson and raised in Yuma. All right. We got some Tucsonians down here. I love it. I was going to the University of Arizona. And I was just starting my senior year when 9/11 happened. I remember many of you guys were alive for that. You remember how devastating it was. And my parents, thankfully, had taught me and my brothers that freedom isn't free, and many men and women have given the ultimate sacrifice so that we could grow up with the freedoms and liberties that we have. And so I remember calling my parents a couple days later and telling them, I'm going to drop out of school and I'm going to join the Navy. I really wanted to be a Navy SEAL. Unfortunately, I didn't make it through SEAL training my first time. But man, I learned a lot from that experience. Went out to the fleet for a couple years, and I got a chance to come back and finish SEAL training a second time. And then I was deployed to Iraq 3 times in 2006, 2008, and 2010. And I got to work with some of the best human beings in the world. I can't help it. I know there's a Marine over here somewhere. I keep hearing him yell. The reason I bring that up is in the SEAL teams, in SEAL training, they wouldn't even let you go to the bathroom without a swim buddy 6 feet from you. Everywhere you went, you always had to have a swim buddy with you. And what they were trying to teach you is that there's no John Rambos on the battlefield. If you don't learn to work as a team, you're going to get yourself or one of your teammates killed. And as I come into a room like this, sometimes in politics it can feel like you're on an island by yourself, but when I come into a room like this with so many patriots, I'm reminded that this is a group effort and it is a team fight. And it's going to have to stay that way. When I left the SEAL teams in 2014, I honestly thought I was done fighting. I had a bit of the I've done my part bug, and I wanted to live the American dream. My wife and I, Jen, we started a small business in our one-car garage in Point Loma, San Diego. We moved the business out here to Tucson, here in Arizona. And you know what? As I was watching the direction that this country was headed, I just couldn't stay out of the fight. I've got 2 daughters. I've got an 18-year-old and a 14-year-old daughter. And I feel so blessed that I got to grow up in this country with all the freedoms and opportunities that many of us, all of us, have grown up with. And I know for a fact, if that falls, if these youngsters over here don't grow up with the same amounts of freedom and opportunity that we did, that's on us. And that's why this is so important. And I'm so glad that we kicked this event off with prayer, because every big thing I've ever done in my life has always started with prayer and asking God, God, what do you want? What do you want me to do? And honestly, I tell people all the time, I think the reason this country is in so much trouble is because we've allowed God to be pushed out of everything. Some of you guys that read your Bibles and know Scripture know really well that when a people push God out, He removes His hand of favor. It's one of the reasons I love Turning Point so much, because they make faith such a heavy part of their mission and what they do. And I know we don't all believe the same things, but I'm not going to cower from my faith. I'm just going to tell you guys, this is a cultural war, it's a political war, but in my opinion, most importantly, it is a spiritual war. Now, we've got some midterms coming up, and I'm going to tell you guys right now something you already know. Republicans are not the solution to all of your problems. But Democrats are pretty much the cause of all of your problems. And if we're willing to work together, if we're willing to look in the mirror every day and say, hey, what are my skill sets? What am I good at? What am I weak at? How can I help in this fight? We can beat these guys. We absolutely can beat them back. You guys know exactly what the Democrats are going to do if they flip the House, right? They're going to impeach the president on day one. And so much of his agenda that's starting to get rolling and rolling and rolling, it's going to come to a grinding halt. And that's why we need the people of this state to step up and get it done. My last few minutes, I'm going to talk about the most important race coming up here in this state. You guys have an opportunity to represent, in my opinion, the best candidate for governor in the entire country, Andy Biggs. Andy Biggs is not only a friend of mine, but he's a mentor as well. I made him my mentor. I didn't even ask him. I said, you're going to be my mentor, buddy. And he's, please don't judge my performance on his mentorship, but he's been an amazing mentor to me. But I want to tell you about his qualifications. This guy was the president of the state Senate. They don't just give that job out. So he knows the state very well. He knows state politics really well. He knows the budget really well. He's also been a member of Congress for close to a decade. He was the chairman of the House Freedom Caucus, which is the most conservative group in Washington, D.C. But in my opinion, more importantly than all that, and I tell people this all the time, the number one thing missing in Washington, D.C. is moral courage. I have seen that guy step up time and time again when nobody was watching, nobody was around, there were no media cameras. When we ousted Kevin McCarthy, before we ousted Kevin McCarthy, the Freedom Caucus needed somebody to step up and run against Kevin McCarthy. I don't have any personal qualms with Kevin McCarthy. I could tell you a couple nice things about him, but he's a politician. He wanted power. He would lie to your face. And we needed somebody to run against Kevin McCarthy, knowing that that person was going to lose and lose big, but that person was also going to take a lot of slings and arrows from the mainstream media and, quite frankly, even a lot of conservatives. And guess who raised his hand and said, I'll do it? Andy Biggs. You see, a lot of politicians don't want to step out and put their political career on the line. And that was the time I saw Andy Biggs do it in a big way. That fight that we had on Capitol Hill about 3.5 years ago, that hadn't happened in 150 years in this country. And then when we fired Kevin McCarthy a couple months later, that had never happened in our country. And Andy Biggs was right there in that mix. And like I told you guys, Republicans, we have our issues. You guys all know that. And it's time for us right now to coalesce as much as possible. But too many politicians come to Washington, D.C. with a go-along to get along attitude. They come there and they say, okay, what does leadership want me to do? Fox News ran an article probably about 4 months ago, and it ranked members of Congress that were most likely, or not most likely, but actually voted against their party more than anybody else. And in the top 10, I was number 10. Andy Biggs, I'm ashamed to say, actually beat me in that ranking. And then we had Chip Roy, Eric Burleson, and Thomas Massey in that group. And I bring that up because, again, Andy Biggs is not a go-along to get along guy. He's the type of guy that when our party is going off the rails and not representing you guys properly, which happens a lot, he's willing to vote against our own party over and over again. So I really hope that you guys recognize the opportunity that we have to elect this guy as our governor, because as a dad who's raising his kid in this state, somebody who was born and raised in this state and came back to run a small business and now serve in Congress in this state, this is an amazing opportunity to elect an amazing governor. I'll leave you guys with one final quote. Evil triumphs when good men do nothing. We know that it's not just good men, it's good women too. But it is, I think it was Benjamin Franklin that said, you get a republic, what? If you can keep it, right? They warned us, our founding fathers warned us a long time ago, if you can keep it. Now it's up to us to keep it for the next generation. And those protesters out there, they're not going to go lightly. They are upset and they are pissed. But if we work together, we can get this done. We can make sure that President Trump is not impeached in a couple months, and we can keep this agenda rolling. So thank you guys so much. God bless you.
Please welcome Congressman